I've got a timer, so don't worry. And I just like to, they say, don't start with an apology, so I won't start with an apology. I'm going to start with an encouragement. If you don't like change, ground yourself. Okay? If you don't like change, because there's a change coming. Thank you, Pastor Cowan, for giving us the freedom to grow. And I've got to say, these moody women, but you know what? I thank God that they got my back. And Cindy's not joking. I tell you, I heard a yarn that they was travelling somewhere and an emu crossed the road. The father knocked it over with a car, went and grabbed it and chucked it in the boot. And the other thing is, I'm driving a manual car, so over the process, it wasn't the end product of having the 2-day seminar. It was bigger than us. And it was God was working in us. And iron sharpens iron. And on one of those trips, I'm driving a manual car and it was stuck in, it wouldn't go in first. We're going around the corner, Cindy reckons, just push it in second. So if ever I have a car problem, Cindy, I'm calling you up. So thank you, Pastor Cowan, again. Just want to get my notes. And I got my timer on. Okay. Need my glasses. What do I do? I know I can see through blurry eyes because I've been crying and on a high all weekend, and it just keeps on getting better. Okay. Okay. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. That was sort of like, that just kept coming up all the time in the process. And, trust in the Lord with all your heart. It was one of the verses that my husband and I first had, but it came through a song, Dion DiMucci. I like that. He's old too. We had 3 women who gave a testimony on the Friday night, and it was just awesome. We had a young woman. So I want to go back, make sure I do it right. First of all, we were blessed to work with the Bible Society. They gave us 2 books that have been translated into Noongar. One was Luke and the other one is Ruth. And so we asked the Noongar guy, Tom Little, his name is, why Ruth? And he said, well, first of all, it's a short book, it's only 4 chapters. But he goes, I wanted to honour the strong women in my life. And it was so appropriate, it just all gelled. Because one thing, so he was a guy, he's an older elder. He grew up in a small town, Maroona, and it was back in the days when, they would come and take Aboriginal people away. So he was telling the story how there was a blackberry bush, and if his father told him to go to the bush, he was to go to the bush, him and all the kids and his cousins, and stay there until the father whistled. And they could see the fellow on horseback, the man who came to take them away. And they never got taken away, but one of their cousins did. And he was saying how in those days his mum and his nana and the aunties used to talk to him in Noongar language. And they introduced him to God. They took him to church. So it was through there that they started this translating. And so the book of Ruth, I'm a bit of a romantic because me and Ruth, we go backs. When I was young, I prayed to God. I was in a youth group. I was living in Melbourne, and I had just finished a relationship. I was dating the son of a preacher man, I like to say, because it's romantic. Anyway, but we broke up. I'm in youth group, got my eyes on God, and I was really hurt, and I said, God, I want a husband. I want a man who will treat me like a flower, a man who will love me for who I am. I don't want a lover. I don't want a boyfriend. I want a godly man. I want a man who's going to be a good father. I need this here. A couple of months later, I opened the door. This is in Fitzroy, Victoria, where I lived. I opened the door and there stood Elvis. The black Elvis. He was visiting his cousin. So I suppose my message is sort of around these three women, and it's around Ruth and it's around me. So to all the women, the young women here, stay praying. God is the best matchmaker. And, I didn't have anyone in mind. There wasn't any, good-looking Koori men around that I had my eye on. I prayed and God brought him to me from Western Australia, Nyunga Bujak. So my message was to the young was, be still. Just be still. God's got it in control. He knows what you need, not what you want. He knows what you need. And this beautiful young girl, who was my niece, I invited her to come and give her testimony because her life was totally changed. She was a young girl who grew up in church, but she got into strife and then she just found God again. Don't try to please people, girls. Please God. He's your first love. Now, there was another lady. Oh, my goodness. She's the tree trunk. There's big names, Noongar names, big Noongar family names. You think Yarran's big. You think Moody's big. You think Joneses are big. You think the Cowans are big. The Pennies. There was a lady who recommitted her life, and she's a penny. She gave her testimony and it was like, wow. To me, she was a tree trunk. Her family and the roots, her past, her genealogy, her descendants. And there's a lot of women here. You are a tree trunk. Claire, you're a fantastic example. You saw a tree trunk here this morning. Because tree trunks stand firm in God. This woman, she took God's word. She believed it. She activated it. She was a good example. Stand firm. Be firm for the young girls, the young Yorgers, the young in Christ. I'm a bit of a romantic, like I said. Going back to Ruth, I remember, and I think I get my drama queen from my husband. He's not here, but I got to share a yarn. We travelled. He proposed to me. We decided to come back to his country and get married. And we caught the greyhound. Got the greyhound over and we got the greyhound back. And one of the best things about the greyhound is they had movies. Now, this is how much a drama queen my husband is. We was watching Gone with the Wind. And so we're sitting in there, you know, we're watching, and everybody's in the greyhound. It's packed. And Scarlett O'Hara and what's his name, Retz, is arguing at the top of the stairs. My husband stands up, "Oh, why don't you just push it down the stairs?" Sit down, you idiot. Anyway, she falls down the stairs and he goes, "Oh my goodness, look what he did." And he's done that a few times to movies. I tell you what, he just gets right into it. But I wanted to read this verse because I read Ruth a long time ago and I loved it. And here's where my drama queening comes in. Where was it? 16. I can't find it. This is when, you know, there's a lot of things that happened to poor Naomi. Naomi, to understand Ruth, you have to understand her relationship with Naomi. Naomi was a bit like me. She left hometown. You know, she had a man, she's married up. Good looking man too, still is. And that was Elvis. And but she also had 2 sons. So she leaves her hometown, she leaves and she travels to another town, another country. And her husband dies. I don't know what that feels like, but I'm sure, you know, we can relate. I can relate in a way. She loses. Then she's a single mum. She has to raise these 2 boys. You know, the changes and the phases of life that you go through from a little boy to a teenager to somebody in love. You know, she had to go through all of that. She wasn't just the nurturer. You know, she had to comfort these kids, these boys, through losing their dad. She was going through the grieving process herself. They get married. Her oldest son gets married to this beautiful girl named Ruth. And the other one was Orpah. And so there's good times. But she loses a son. How devastating, how shattering. But she doesn't just lose one son. She loses 2 sons. Now she has 2 daughter-in-laws that she's got to go through grieving herself, and she's got to comfort them. Good times and bad times. In the last 6 years of my life, they were the darkest times of my life. And I'll just give you a little snippet of some of the things. I don't know what it's like to lose a husband, but I know what it's like to lose 3 brothers, not just one. I'm like Cindy, but the opposite. I'm the only girl with 6 brothers. within the space of 18 months, I lost my baby brother. I lost my baby brother. While we was planning his funeral, my sister rings me, my sister-in-law, and says, Mary, what are you doing? Are you sitting down? I said, oh my goodness. She goes, pull over. She goes, when was the last time you heard from Earl? He's my baby brother. I got 2 older brothers and I got 4 baby brothers. She tells me that I lost my baby brother. So my baby brother, Earl, his name is Earl. We called him Blackbird. And we shouldn't have, because sort of like branded him. He was a bit of a jailbird. He spent a good 3/4 of his life. He died 45 in jail. In fact, he had a hot shot in jail, which is bad heroin. Don't ask me how you can get heroin in jail, but you can. I had to go to Melbourne, sit by his bed and pray. And then my baby brother dies, suicide. And I found out that he'd already gone 40 days before my baby brother. So my 2 baby brothers, I can't separate them. I can't say, baby brother 1 and baby brother 2, because they're both my baby brothers. And then that was in 2016, 2017. My 3rd baby brother passes away. 4 of my baby brothers were separated from the family. We was all dispersed. And they had a rotten life. I did use the word the other day. I don't know if I should use that word again. It was a bad life. So I know what it's like, and I'm sure you do too. I had rejection. I was rejected by the love of my life. I was rejected by the love of my life. It got me. Plus I went through something that all women go through. Stage of our life when you get a little bit older, and the hot flashes come and your brain goes crazy and you lose your balance and all that, and you don't know what is going on in your body. So I went home to my country, because I've been here since my big girl is 35. I came over here when she was only 1 year old. So 34 years I've been on Noongar Bujak. I know more Noongar language than I know my Ngarrindjeri language. I know more Noongar language than I know my Wamba language. And I know more Noongar language than I know my Yindinji language. Forgot to read this verse, hey? Ruth says to Naomi, because Naomi says, I'm cursed, everything bad that's happening is happening. Your husbands have, they've died, you need to go back to your families, you need to go back to your country. Because I'm going back to my country. I'm going back to my family. So I went back to my family. But Ruth, I'm on that greyhound coming over here and I read Ruth, the book of Ruth. And she says, entreat me not to leave you. She goes, go. But no, we can't leave you. We're not going to leave you. One goes, but Ruth stays. She says, don't tell me to go back. I want to be with you. I'll follow you. For wherever you go, I will go. And wherever you live, I will live. And your people shall be my people. And your God, my God. And real black fella, wherever you die, Elvis, I'll die. I thought she was a bit of a noongar there. So I read Ruth back then. There was dark times, desperate times. I lost 2 boys. They went to jail. One did 3, one did 4. But they're back. One of the things that my niece would always say to me, Auntie Mary, your boys are coming home. And it was in these darkest times I got closer to God. It was like my testing time. Everything that I learned as I grew up, the scriptures, the songs, everything, I had to cling to God because I had nothing else. I even went to jail myself. I spent the night there. And don't even ask why, okay, because I'm not going to tell you. But it was during these dark times, don't lose your faith in God. I tell you what, that song, whoever picked the song, it was really good. But I just wanted to say to you, I got 7 minutes, Pastor Cowan. 15 minutes. So then there was another girl who gave her testimony as well. And she just went around like this on a carousel, And I said to God a long time ago, it was during these dark times, God delivered me from a lot of things. I was so scared, and I remember being in a dark room. I wouldn't sleep in a room if the lights were off. God delivered me from that because I had to. God delivered me from a lot of things. I actually travelled overseas. God blessed me. I went to Israel. So there was a lows and there was a highs, and God's scripture came to me. I preach about a love letter, and that love letter, God's word became real. I said, God, if you love me, you have to show me or take my life. I don't want to be here. Take my life. I opened the book up and a verse, Deuteronomy. It is I, and there is no one beside me. I can kill and I can make alive. I can wound and I can heal, but nobody will take you from my hands. That was God's word. That was written 5,000 years ago, but God had it just for me. That has never happened to me before. So don't lose faith. And if God's word says it, just believe it. Just believe it. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not in your own understanding. Thank you, Pastor Cowan.